Coming up on today's episode of Airborne Unlimited, SpaceX receives a $1 billion investment. Hundreds of dogs and cats benefit from general aviation. And Orion Aerial Firefighters to revive P-3 firefighting fleet. Welcome to Airborne Unlimited. I'm Ashley Hale. As SpaceX's Elon Musk pushes ahead on his development of rocket and delivery systems to supply the International Space Station, he's also looking at finding a way to provide high-speed internet communications for the entire world. And if that sounds like an ambitious plan, it is. And it's reported that Google and Fidelity seem to agree, to the tune of $1 billion. The Wall Street Journal cites a source described as a person familiar with the matter, who says that the investment would place the value of SpaceX at more than $10 billion. It's widely known that Google has been experimenting with creating near-space systems in an attempt to expand internet connectivity. With the concept of placing a constellation of mini satellites in low Earth orbit, it would seem that by combining SpaceX's launch capabilities and the desire to increase communications by both SpaceX and Google, the partnership could be fortuitous for all concerned. Well, general aviation has come to the rescue once again. More than 200 dogs and cats were flown from Greenville Airport in Alabama to various locations in Florida last Saturday in an effort to find new homes for the animals. Called the N Paws Sunshine Flyway, the effort was coordinated by pilots Devon and Jill Barger. It involved 15 Florida planes and pilots working together with 22 sending rescue organizations in Alabama and 17 receiving rescue organizations in Florida. The Sunshine Flyway was created to take animals at so-called high-risk facilities where they were in danger of being euthanized to no-kill shelters where it's hoped they will have a much better chance for adoption. The pilots involved received no pay and covered all their own operating expenses. Once again, we see general aviation at its best. After the break, claims are made that the P-3 firefighter aircraft needs to be back in service.
Since the early days of powered flight, pilots have struggled with landing in crosswinds. In fact, crosswinds and wind gusts cause more landing accidents than fog, thunderstorms, and icing combined. That's where the Redbird X-Wind SE comes in. By placing pilots in gusty crosswind conditions for extended periods of time, the X-Wind SE gives instructors all the time they need to teach the pilot the proper techniques for landing in crosswind conditions. For more information on Redbird X-Wind SE and Redbird's entire line of flight training devices, visit www.redbirdflightsimulation.com.
AML's patent-pending wireless induction charging system eliminates confusion over those charging cables, cuts down cockpit cable clutter, and allows you and your passengers to fly cordless and eliminate the cable nightmare. www.aviationmodificationleaders.com. Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro standby instrument. TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
Welcome back. If you'd like to support Airborne Unlimited, send us an email to jim@aero-news.net. A campaign is underway to restore the P-3 aircraft to firefighting service. Heading up the call to bring the Orions back is Dale Head, CEO of Orion Aerial Firefighters. Head said, quote, "The U.S. Forest Service has a shortage of large air tankers, which dangerously reduces its firefighting capabilities," end quote. He added that the P-3 can do things and go places that other air tankers cannot. The problem started in 2011 when the Forest Service canceled the contract for 6 P-3 air tankers due to a dispute between Aero Union, the owner of the P-3 fleet, and the Forest Service regarding maintenance practices. Orion Aerial Firefighters say that they intend to return these aircraft to aerial firefighting. However, finding sources for funding has been challenging, so Orion is soliciting community support. Head added, quote, "If every person who was ever threatened by a wildfire were to give $1, we could easily attain our goal," end quote. Well, it's Friday at last, and that means it's time for ANN's CEO and Editor-in-Chief, Jim Campbell, to check in with his weekly barnstorming commentary.
Thanks, Ashley, and hi, folks. Well, I want to talk to you about a term you've heard me use a couple times, but I want to be real clear. We just finished Sebring, not just Sebring, but a number of events over the last few months. And the low wings still all look like Cherokees and Beaches, and the high wings all look like Cessnas or Cubs and things of that nature. They're all still pretty much dependent on standard piston engine technology, although a few of them have broadened the reach a little bit. We don't see the electrics in wide form. The only real disruption we've seen has come in avionics and, frankly, from the iPad. But what we need to do is this. The world around us has changed. Disruptive technologies have changed things dramatically. When was the last time you picked up a paper magazine instead of going to the web? The web was a disruptive technology. The iPad was a disruptive technology, even in the computer industry. All the stuff we used to have on our desks now we carry in our hands. Look what happened to phones. Let's talk about, in the future, how we can disruptively innovate aviation. Electrics are a possibility. New materials are a possibility. New platforms are a definite possibility. As Einstein has been quoted, and we've oft repeated, the true definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. The high point of aviation, 1979, those days are gone. The airplanes of the future have to meet a new type of direction with new people, new requirements, a new reality. We're communicating different, we're traveling different, we're behaving different, we're spending different. Aviation has to disruptively innovate. We have to change who we are, what we do, and how we do it. Obviously, we're doing it from the media side, but that's just a small fraction of what's going to be required. Think about it. Think about what the airplanes and the pilots of the future need to do and be to guarantee a safe and prosperous future for the aviation world. And so our kids will someday have the opportunity to be pilots themselves. For the Aero-News Network, Airborne and Aero-TV, I'm Jim Campbell.
After these messages, the AOPA Safety Institute promotes forced landing survival skills.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
The KSN 770 is an affordable, WAS-enabled integrated MFD with a flexible hybrid user interface from Bendix King. Get your fingers on the 770's perfect blend of touchscreen and hard buttons. Easily control your GPS navigation, Navcom, weather, traffic, and terrain in any condition. For more information, go to bendixking.com.
Welcome back. Well, with so much news coming out of the aviation industry, we've summarized some other interesting stories in a brief segment we call Around the Patch. Preparing for the worst can save your life. The AOPA Air Safety Institute has released a new video to help pilots and passengers survive conditions following a forced landing. It reviews communication, safety gear, and detection from rescuers. Aircraft carriers are like cities, and they need a transport system for delivery of supplies and people to and from the carrier. The Navy will be replacing its venerable C-2A CODs, nicknamed the Greyhound, with the V-22 Osprey tilt-rotor aircraft. If the X-Files ever really existed, the story of UFOs would certainly be found here. Well, the Air Force has now declassified and released 130,000 pages of UFO records. The reports include 12,618 UFO sightings, 701 of which are listed as unidentified. As NASA's Dawn spacecraft closes in on the dwarf planet Ceres, pictures are starting to come in. The spacecraft will enter an orbit around the planet on March 6. The dwarf planet Ceres lies in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Well, that's it for today's trip around the patch. Let's move on to the rest of the news. For the first time ever, the FAA safety team will facilitate a national virtual aviation safety stand-down. The event will take place on Saturday, March 21st. The event will be presented in live webinar format and will feature several speakers, all experts in their field. Each presentation will be followed by a panel discussion, and attendees will have the opportunity to participate live. The FAA safety team is asking for help from the pilot community to help promote the event locally and in securing FBOs, flight schools, flying clubs, and individuals to host the event at their facilities or their homes. Hosting consists of showing the webinar on a large screen TV or projecting it onto a screen or wall. Group participation in the webinar is encouraged. Well, that's our program for Friday, January 23rd. Remember to get comprehensive, real-time, 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. Join us every weekday along with a growing roster of over 100 outstanding industry associations and organizations for the best in aviation and aerospace news. I'm Ashley Hale. Thanks for watching.